All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to say, Call, I am Law, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone. They rule and teach well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect that's spreading the truth out of four winds. This your brother Shamar, come back to edify the 12 tribes of Israel. Today's lesson is going to be on the fall of the United States. All right, every great kingdom had a rise and a fall. Look at the Assyrians, a rise and a fall. The Babylonians, a rise and a fall. The Medo-Persians arise and fell. The Greeks arose and fell. The Romans rose and fell. And you know what? One thing that all them countries have in common: the lack of the belief in the Most High. They all did not worship the Heavenly Father, and it was a certain instance where the Medo-Persian king Xerxes and Darius made an oath to the slaves, the Israelite slaves that was living there, and he allowed them to go back to their land and rebuild their land. And that's how you get the second temple. All right, with Zerubbabel and the high priest Joshua. You can find this in a book of First Esdras. All right, if you're going to be in this truth, all right, and the Most High put a spirit in you to believe, you need to get you an Apocrypha, a King James authorized, King James version. All right. So it says, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds. Their might has failed. They became as women. They have burnt her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. All right, so there's two Babylons in the earth. All right, you got the ancient Babylon, which is currently the country of Iraq. All right. As originally, the name of that place was Babylon. But there's another Babylon. It's called the version daughter of Babylon. All right, they call it the daughter of Babylon because it took up the customs of ancient Babylon. All right, all the occultic stuff that they were doing. All right, the heads of the United States. All right, they found every God to worship and worship them besides the one and true God, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. All right, they know that the true name of the Heavenly Father and His Son is Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. And they know that the Lord's chosen people is going to be in the virgin daughter of Babylon. All right, the United States of America, the bulk of us. All right, because it was prophecy. All right, it said Judah and Ephraim shall be oppressed together. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. I'm sorry. Let's go to it. I think that's what it said. Gotta read a little slower. Bear with me. Yeah, I can't find it. But it said two tribes would be oppressed together in the Americas. All right. You got the it's on the tip of my tongue. The island of Hispaniola. All right, you got the Dominicans, you got the Haitians on each side. All right. You got the Dominicans and Haitians in the same piece of land. All right. the island of Hispaniola. So, and that's in North America. That's in the Americas. I think it's South America or it's off the coast somewhere. All right, so, but the majority of us is gonna be in America. That's where the majority of the elect is gonna be saved from. So there's the book of Jeremiah 51 and 30. All right, we already read it, but let's break it down some more. It says the mighty men of Babylon, all right, the mighty men of the United States of America. All right, you look at these police officers, you look at these attorneys and politicians. All right, they look like they're ready to do some dirt. All right, but when the Most High get involved, they start acting like women. All right, they start screaming like women. All right. So it says they are forborn to fight. All right, they refuse to fight to protect the country. All right, that's how dangerous Russia and its allies are. All right, that people are gonna be deserting. All right, the strongest man in the platoon is gonna desert. All right, what is desertion? Desertion is when you leave your post. You're inside of your country's military and you decide to run away instead of die on the battlefield. So that's called desertion. And I'm pretty sure it's the death penalty for it. Desertion, the action of deserting a person, cause, or organization. Military, the action of illegally leaving the armed forces. All right, that's the desertion we're talking about. All right, people actually leaving the armed forces without being sent home. All right, 3 officers were shot for desertion. All right, so the judgment of deserting your country's war is death. All right, and when you see those big old cops, man, them big old correctional officers in the jail. All right, they look big and tough, but when the Most High put the spirit on a country or an alliance to come and take everything down, and they got the Lord with them, it's gonna be a real scary thing. All right, a real terrifying thing. They're gonna see one person get blown to smithereens and the blood splatter on their face. Then they're gonna got over it. And it's gonna happen on the other side, right next to them. And not to mention they're gonna be dodging bullets. That's why these soldiers get PTSD. All right, because they think they're afraid. They remain in their holes. All right, them holes is them deep underground military bunkers. All right, they're gonna be hiding from the Russians. Their might have failed. They became as women. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. All right, so it says they became as women. They have and the Russians and their allies burnt all their dwelling places, burnt down all the houses. All right, they're gonna ravish the women. All right, they're gonna ravish the women. You don't know what ravish mean. All right, it means to rape women. That's how dangerous this stuff is. I was just talking to somebody in the military. All right, and they said when they went overseas and they took a village, they were allowed to rape the women. All right, that's in the United States. That's war crimes. But the thing is, if you know people like these elite bankers like the Rothschild, Rockefellers, Wall, all right, DuPonts, all of them, you above the law. Nobody will ever know. They got mind control. You could rape a woman, and if you got Rothschild or Rockefeller or someone like that on your side, they could get in that person's brain and make you say it was somebody else than the person who did it, or they'll make you forget that it happened. All right, that stuff is real. Mind control is real. All right, and let's keep reading. One post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to show the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end. All right, so it says it's gonna be messengers. All right, I forget how they get message. I don't know how they get messages now, but I know they had a machine back in the World War II, World War I time. All right, where they would send messages through a telegram message, and then they'll have to code it just in case the enemies got their hands on the message. All right. One post shall run to meet another, and another messenger to meet another, to show the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end, and that the passages are stopped, and the reeds they have burned with fire, and the men of war are affrighted. All right, I just seen, there it go again. The men of war. You're supposed to be a man of war. Strongest out of the group. Can bench 400 pounds. Scared of a little Chinese man and his technology. All right, that's what's going to be happening, man. I just seen, I don't know if it was the leader of Iran, because I know the leader of Iran just died, but it was somebody in Iran, and they was like, we got technology. We're going to send all our best technology at you. He said something like that. It was like, we got enough technology to last years. And why? They might be bulletproof. They might be missile proof. All right? Them robots, man. They'll come snatch your head off your shoulders. No man can do that, but a robot can. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, the daughter of Babylon. There it is, the daughter of Babylon, not Babylon, but the daughter of Babylon. If a country is this, what would her daughter be? It would be another country. It wouldn't be the same Babylon. All right? It's like a threshing floor. It is time to thresh her, yet a little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. All right, there it is. That go with Matthew 13. All right. The harvest is the end of the world. All right. And the angels are the reapers. All right. You got to think of it like like you at a farm. All right. And you got to take, let's say you growing some corn. You got to take the scythe and you got to chop down the corn and then grab the corn, put it in the barn, separate the wheat from the tares. All right. The good from the bad. All right, and you use the good and you throw the bad in the fire. All right, just like that. All right, so the reapers are the angels. All right, that's who beams up. All right, that's who beams up or saves the wheat. All right, so that's the beginning of the threshing, the separation from the wheat from the tares. And then they will lead the tares or the wicked and have them be burned. All right. Don't forget, the harvest is the end of the world. All right, the end of this rulership, the Roman rulership. All right. All right, so this is a precept. There's Revelation 18:1. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. All right, so that's talking about Yahweh Shai, the Son of God, or the word they call Jesus Christ. All right, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and a hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. So it said that the Yahweh Shai cried to the earth and said, Babylon the Great is fallen, is fallen. All right, United States has built itself up to be the greatest kingdom in history. All right, they never thought they was going to go down or lose. But if you're not right with the Most High, you're doing pagan worship, all right, you eating unlawful things, you're committing unlawful acts, all right, then the Most High going to take you up out of here. All right. And I go for the little kids, all right, the teenagers, the babies. I go for all of them. All right, if they involved with something like that, if their parents are doing that, more than likely they're going to end up doing it. So that's why the Most High, sometimes when the Israelites would go to war, he would say, kill all the babies. Kill the women, children, and babies, and leave nothing alive. All right, because it's spiritual. All right, if you let an Edomite run rampant in the earth, all right, he going to start all hell. All right. I know after Troy, all right, one Edomite got away and started the most wicked empire in history. All right, and that's Rome. All right, because of that's a separation of good and evil. His spirit is tainted. His soul is tainted. All right, your spirit and your soul are the same thing. His soul is tainted. All right, it's got a smudge on it. All right, to do evil and not good. All right, and we know that because you go to Malachi, the book of Malachi, the first chapter, and it says the border of wickedness. All right, they shall call them the border of wickedness. So when you cross over into Esau's life, are you in the wicked? But if you come back before that, you don't go to over there with the white man. All right, then you'll be doing good. You'll be doing better than them because they're getting exterminated. All right. It say, for all nations are drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. All right. So how do you come out of the United States or come out of the rulership of the wicked? You really can't, because every country on this earth is evil. All right. So you got to come out of this place mentally and spiritually. You can live over here and keep the laws. All right, to the best of your ability. All right, you can keep the Sabbath. You can keep the Passover. You can keep the Feast of Weeks. All right, you can keep all of that. But once they crack down, you have to do it in secret. Because when that crackdown comes and they start rounding up people, the first people they're going to take is the men of great millstone, the Hebrew Israelites. All right, they're going to put us in concentration camps and start killing us. All right? But you got to come out of Babylon the Great mentally and spiritually. All right? By keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. By listening to the apostles. All right? by making your own videos to sharpen yourself up. All right? But let's 18:5. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God have remembered her iniquities. So this talking about USA. They say Most High remembered her iniquities. What is iniquity? Sin. Iniquities are sins. All right? So they say their sins, the United States of America's sins, have reached unto heaven, and the Most High have remembered her iniquities. All right, that's why the scriptures say, vengeance belongs to me, saith the Lord. All right, sometimes you can't avenge yourself or your family member because they overpowering you. Or they got technology more advanced than you could think. So you'll never get your vengeance. And if you do, you going to jail for the rest of your life or put to death through lethal injection. But if they do it, they get a slap on the wrist. All right? They just put up $1 million or something and make it go away. All right, this is the last precept. I'm going to close it out. Isaiah 47:1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For thou no more shall be called tender and delicate. So they try to say that the United States of America is the safest place in the earth to be. All right, and it's true to a certain extent. The gangs are bad, but they're not taking over the government like in Mexico. All right. You can find a job pretty easily. And if you stay out the way, you really wouldn't be fleeing the country. Unlike these other nations, people flee their countries off of fear for their life every day. Some of them escape, some of them don't. So it says, come down, sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. So that's the virgin daughter of Babylon, the daughter of Babylon. That's the United States of America. All right? The virgin daughter. You know why it's called the virgin daughter? Because it never been penetrated with warfare. All right? We got to say penetrated because we're talking about virgins. It's a spiritual aspect. All right? So it says, United States was never penetrated with war. Never, not one outside war came to the United States after it was founded and the 50 states were created. All right? The Civil War don't count for you smart guys out there. The Civil War does not count. That was internal feuding. We're talking about someone outside of your country coming to your country and fighting a war on your land. That never happened in the United States. All right? And it says sit in the dust because this is talking about after nuclear destruction. All right? What happens when a nuke is dropped on a country? All right? It wipes everything off the slate. All right? It wipes everything off of that place. All right? And there's nothing left but dust. Dust from the ground. All right, the grass gets chewed up and the dirt turns into grain. All right? That's why I say sit in the dust, sit on the ground. All right, all their skyscrapers, Trump Tower. All right, what else? The Willis Tower. All right, Trump got multiple towers all over the United States, and every single one is going to be destroyed and during the second death. Let's keep reading. Take the millstones and grind meal. Uncover thy locks. Make bare the leg. Uncover the thigh. Pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. All right, so that eliminates that whole doctrine that the scribes and Pharisees were trying to push on Yahushua, how he needed to come back and rescue them from the Romans. All right, it say plainly in prophecy that when the Most High come to redeem the Israelites and destroy their enemies, all right, he not going to meet them as a man. All right, he going to meet them as a celestial being. All right. And it say thy nakedness shall be uncovered, that is being uncovered as we speak. All right. Us at Great Millstone, we knew that the presidents and elite politicians were Satanists and loved little boys, loved to sleep with little boys and little girls. And we knew that they sacrificed little kids to Molech. We've been pushing this. All right, the Apostle Tahar been pushing this for 40-some years. All right? And yeah, we wake up people, but we ain't at that true number, 144,000 yet. I think it's gonna take a little more exposing to get these people to listen. All right, they releasing UFO files that they tried to say wasn't real this whole time. All right, and we've been telling you that UFOs are real. All right, that's the chariot of the Most High. That's the only explanation there is to what is that in the sky. All right, that must be something from the Creator. All right. And they trying to change the faces in order to throw people off. All right, the angels, they look like men. They're dark skinned with afros and with beards, and that's where that lion come from, Ezekiel the 1st chapter. All right, and the bull, all right, that's their strength. All right, how muscular they are. All right, let's go to that. I forget the exactly what it says. I know I got two of them. It says every one of them. So if you read farther up and talk about there was a wheel, not a wheel inside of a wheel, but that Ezekiel seen a whirlwind and a fire unfolding itself. All right. That's because the chariots, they on fire. All right. They fly around on fire. All right. And it said every one have 4 faces and every one have 4 wings. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of the calf's foot. And they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. All right, what color is burnished brass? That's dark brown. So they were shining, all right, the color of dark brown. All right. So it said the sole, their feet were like calves' feet. It's almost like if you put some socks on and you put them in your flip-flops, all right, it looked like a cow foot. All right. But let's get to the faces. Ezekiel 1 and 10. As for the likeness of their faces, they 4 had the face of a man, the face of a lion, and they had the face of an ox. All right, so the man face is just the man himself. The lion face is the man's beard, and the ox face is his strength. Okay. All right, but back to their nakedness. All right, being uncovered. All right, They done got everything they need. Or I was watching somebody do a video on the Epstein files, and they got a real painting of Bill Clinton in a dress. Like he posed for it in a dress and all. All right, we told you that they some weirdos. Highly weird. All right, they dress up like women. They have sex with each other. Men having sex with each other. Women having sex with each other. All right? All of that is abominable acts. All right, and they do it to feed the beast so they can stay in rulership. All right? Those orgies, all right, they're sins against the Most High. And they feel that the more wicked they get, the longer they're going to be in rulership. But the Most High isn't a God of wickedness. He's a God of righteousness. All right? So once he's had enough, then he's going to turn the heat on. And he's going to turn the heat on and take these people out. As for our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Hope that lesson was edifying. I'm going to close it out. I'm going to say, call, I am